Unless you have all the cash you need for your development, then it's likely you're going to need to raise finance. You may do this with a combination of finance from traditional investors and private investors. In this video, we're going to talk about how you raise the cash from traditional investors and some of the criteria and the way that they calculate the loan amounts. And in the next video, we'll talk about raising money from private investors. This, incidentally, is just a very small section from our Property Developers Mastery Program, where we go into this quite extensively along with everything else that you need to become a successful property developer. Incidentally, if you would like a copy of my book, You a Property Developer, currently I'm offering this for just if you pay the postage and packaging. So there'll be a link at the end of this video and a link in the description below where you can get a copy of that. So now let's get on with the video. So raising finance from traditional sources, should I say. So there's various types of loans that you can get. You can get land with no planning in place, very difficult in all honesty, and there's a very small amount that you can actually raise through this process. You can get land with full planning, which means that you generally are going to get a larger amount, and you can get bridging loans. And we're going to talk more about the bridging loans because essentially all of that type of finance comes under bridging loans. The criteria of how much you can get in each scenario differs, but the actual matrix of how they work it out is short-term finance, or bridging loans is the type of finance. And then you can get also developer finance. Now, developer finance is when you're looking to borrow over £1 million, and when you are not looking to borrow that amount, then it's a short-term finance option that you're going to go for. So let's have a look at that in just a moment. There's also developer exit finance, which essentially means once you've completed your build but perhaps not sold it on, then you can finance it at a lower rate. And then if your exit strategy is not to sell it on but perhaps to rent it out, but traditional mortgages are not available because you haven't got a track record there, then you can get a product that's called Bridge to Let, which will then allow you to take the short-term financing, which traditionally usually around about 2 years, and then you can then move on to traditional commercial type mortgages. So if it was a block of flats, you would actually mortgage the whole property rather than individual mortgages for each flat. But that'd be much more of a commercial facility. So we're not going to talk about that there. Essentially, I'm going to describe what's involved with the short-term let finance and the developer type finance, and just so that you can see the different ways that is calculated. And finally, there is a product also, custom build, which can be used. It's not the same as a self-build mortgage, but it's very similar to a self-build mortgage, and it allows a client, if you are selling sites on their own, it allows them to purchase the land and therefore release you having to finance that part of it, and then to subsequently allow you to be paid over stages through the build as you build out the property to maybe a slightly different specification than you've specified, but allowing the client then to specify things such as kitchens and bathrooms, so giving you small modifications to the property. And then what the benefit of that, then it alleviates you from having to actually finance the majority of the deal. So now let's look at an example of short-term financing and the way that this is calculated. This is quite interesting how they do it, and if you've never seen this before, you will, I'm sure, have some comments to make about it. Let's put it that way. So let's assume we're just borrowing a small amount, 75,000 in this example, and we're going to assume an interest rate of 0.85%. Now, I have to point out that these slides were created a few years ago, and so the current interest rate is not reflected here. But however, this is kind of for illustrative purposes, so that you get an understanding of how they actually calculate short-term finance, as opposed to being the actual figures that you're going to pay certainly today, because these things fluctuate obviously, and so you can take what the current interest rates and make your own calculations based on the information that I'm providing you with here. So the interest, therefore, we're going to take out over 12 months. So that's going to come out of the figure of £7,650. Now, what I should point out here is that you want to certainly extend the term to the amount that you period that we're going to require this finance, because if you then find that you still need the finance after, say, the 12 months in this example, you're going to be into penalties, and so you certainly want to go beyond the period where you think you're going to need the funds so as you can avoid those penalties. There is a downside to that, as you'll see in a moment, which I'll go into. There's typically going to be an arrangement fee. In this case, we're talking about £1,500. It's usually a percentage of the total loan, or the initial loan, which is 175,000 in this case, you typically between 1 and 2%. So now we have a total loan, or subtotal should I say, of 84,150. We're going to have an arrangement fee in addition to a revised arrangement fee, because what they actually do is they add all that into the top line of your finance. So effectively now what you're borrowing is the 84,150, because they've added the 7,650 and the 1,500 onto the loan, initial loan amount of 75,000. So they're going to lend you 75,000, but they're going to treat the loan as being 84,150. Actually, as you will see, it becomes even more than that. So effectively what you're doing is you're going to pay interest on the interest that you're already paying, because they've added that to the loan, and therefore that has the effect of pushing up the total loan and all the other charges that they add in there. So the actual amount that you appear to borrow and the actual amount you actually get into your bank account varies, and obviously you pay the interest on that. So the revised arrangement fee of 2%, so that's the additional amount on that 7,650 and the 1,500, then is added to that. In this as an example of a way to work it out, you've got a broker fee, typically around about £3,000, title insurance of £100, legal fees to pay, and that incidentally is the legal fees for the loan side, not your legal fees. You will have legal fees for your solicitor arranging this as well. And then they got funds transfer fee. And so now what we have is we have a revised loan interest of 9,134, because this is based on the total loan of 89,553, and so all those charges have been added on. So effectively you are paying all these fees, about 15,000 on the loan of 75,000. So it's almost 15,000, just under 14,500. So you can see why this becomes expensive, and the drawback of going for an extended period is that you end up paying more interest on interest, but that's going to be cheaper than if you end up paying penalties. So it's just one of the things you have to do. It does, to me, almost seem sleight of hand, but this is the way they operate, and this is a fallout going back to 2008, when the global financial crisis, when all the major lenders moved out of the market and alternative financing was put in its place, and this is the alternative financing. So they were able to set new rules for us that want to develop. And so, but it is on the smaller end of development. So this is for any borrowing, as I said before, under £1 million. So now let's go and have a look at an example of developer finance, which is what you would access if you're looking to borrow over £1 million. So with developer finance, we are looking at ground up development. Obviously they will lend you up to 65% of gross development value, 70% of day one, which plus the land cost, and 100% of build costs, 90% against the total cost of land and build. First time developers will pay typically between 8 and 12%. Again, these interest rates are historical, so you need to check what the current situation is. Experienced, and this means really experienced developers, not just done a few developments, typically between 4 and 8%. They will require a monitoring surveyor to be appointed. That basically means that each phase is going to have a sum of money paid out during each phase, and they will make sure that you've carried out the work that you said you're going to work, because this money is paid in arrears. They will want a quantity surveyor to establish the costs and the build phases, so how much they're going to pay out at each phase. And so how much can you borrow? Well, this is not actually a very good example, to be honest, because it's below $1 million, but it doesn't really matter. The principles are pretty much the same. So we've got 640,000, land purchase value of 140,000, and the land purchase price in this case 75,000. So the land may value up at 140,000, but the actual land was purchased for 75,000, because in this scenario, the way we teach people how to buy land properly, not on Rightmove, not on Zoopla and those sort of things. And so this is the big advantage of really understanding the process of how to effectively buy land. It always amazes me that people say, yeah, but I'm not too interested in property, and that usually comes from self-builders. But actually, would they not like a little bit extra cash to be able to put into the house and make it a bit nicer? I don't get that attitude, but however, that's been said to me a few times. Nevertheless, that we are developers, that's what we're really focusing on here. So in this case, 65% of gross development value be 416,000. 70% of the land value, and it would be of the 140,000. So the value of that is 98,000. The build costs in this situation we're putting down as 340,000. So typically, if they lend on the land value, 70% of land value, and the total build costs, then you're going to get 438,000. However, they, like mortgage companies, are going to lend on the lower of the figures, and so what they're saying is that they will lend up to 90% of the land purchase price, which would be 75,000, so that'd be 67,500 in this situation, and then 90% of the build costs, which then gives us a figure of 340,000, so that's 90% of the 438,000. So our total loan in this situation is 407,500. So they got those two figures, and if we then, what we do is we deduct the build costs, and the day one loan in fact would be 67,500. So what this means in this scenario, even though they are allowing you all that money for your build costs, they're not going to lend it to you on day one. All they're going to lend to you on day one is the land value. So that means with your cost 75,000, we have the land, we've got costs of 10,000. The first stage of costs estimated, and they've just taken 20% here of the build cost, 68,000. So the total funding that you're going to need is 153,000 to get this to the stage of where they're going to release the next tranche of funding, and therefore the funds that you're going to need, because they'll supply 67,500, you're going to need 85,500. Then once the surveyor has come out and verified you've completed that first stage, then you will be released the funds on that. So that's a brief overview of funding from traditional lenders. We do cover this in great detail, as I said before, in our Property Developers Mastery Program. If you're interested in that, book a discovery call. Simply go to our website and you will find book a discovery call, and we can have a chat about that to see we are a good fit for each other. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe now. And if you'd like a copy of my book, You a Property Developer, there'll be a link appearing up there. If you want to see the video prior to this, which was about health and safety, then watch this video here. And if you want to see the one that will follow after that, once it's published, it'll be about finding investors for your property development deals. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.